There is a buzzing sound. It echoes throughout the walls from the inner workings of the building. It fills a maze of endless off-white halls and dusty tiled floors. It rattles and shakes everything. Can you hear it? The beating heart of a heartless system. Machines, not unlike the people at their desks. Here, metal and flesh become one. Here in the department. This is the hive. A faint musty smell. The air is polluted with sweat and grime. It builds up like oil. It builds up until someone croaks. No, no one will die. No one can die, because there is no one here. There are only workers and machines in the building. They do not have names or faces. They work because they were born to work. They sweat because the heat is pumped to its highest setting, which saturates the off-whites to sickly yellows. Each moment drags on because of the heat. Every moment is 1,000,000 years, and each hallway spans 1,000 miles. It is a corporate labyrinth. There is no hope of escape. Employee 0527 leans back in his chair. He loosens his collar. It itches his neck because his neck is covered in sweat. He hates having to wear that shirt. A short-sleeved shirt with a tie wrapped so tight around his neck like a leash, like a chain keeping him trapped in that cubicle, keeping him prisoner. To employee 0527, the cubicle is much like solitary confinement, and the department is much like a prison. Nobody speaks a word, if there is anyone there at all. The silence is overpowering. The air, is it so thick because of the silence or the heat? It makes him sweat even more. A cold sweat to cool him down, only he does not feel cooler. He feels hot and overpowered, and every second he listens to the silence, he gets all the more anxious. He cannot see anyone else. He has never seen anyone else. Interaction between employees is strictly prohibited. Nobody knows what might happen if they did. Nobody knows the punishments, only the rules. In such a large building, a part of an engine, he is alone. The buzzing of machines downstairs shakes the room. It shakes all the time, so he hardly thinks about it anymore. The machines rattle like the earth rotates. He rattles with it. He rattles and he is moved with the department because he is part of the department. He is part of the grand design. Employee 0527 used to love to daydream. After years in the labyrinth, memories of the outside slip away. Now, when he drifts from his paperwork, he only sees the halls and hears the machines. There is no outside. There is only the department. It is all he sees when he opens or closes his eyes. It is all he pictures in his mind. It has taken over each one of his senses and will smother him because it can, because there should be nothing but the department. He has not moved in years. Have you? All he knows is the inside of the cubicle. There is nowhere else to go. The walls of the offices have no windows, nor do any other rooms in the building. There is nowhere to look and no reason to get up. Each part of the department is identical to any other. He gave up on looking for anything else a long time ago. It is pointless. There is nothing to find. Employee 0527 looks down at his work. He looks at it apathetically because there is no other way to look. The muscles in his face are weak because he does not use them. The systems of his body are weak because there is no need for them in the department. They do not contribute to the company's intentions, and so they are an enemy of the company. There is no room for selfishness or self. There is no room for a name or a face or any emotions or talents. There is no room for dreaming. There is room for work and compliant nods and productivity. So go on, get to work. Endless piles of paper are covering his desk. He cannot remember what his desk looked like without them. He cannot remember if it was empty. There has always been work to do. The work is on paper, and all the paper is the same. All fonts are uniform. All things go according to plan. They list off information, an order for a new printer, and 24 ink cartridges set to be delivered soon. On another piece of paper, a checklist. He checks off boxes based on the listed information on the other pieces of paper. It does not occur to him to make a mistake. He would not make a mistake because machines do not make mistakes. His labor is menial, not difficult. There is no challenge in his life. His challenge is his life. It is bearing with zoochosis, bearing with nothingness, going slowly insane in the labyrinth. Employee 0527 can recognize that there is something sinister about the department. He understands that it is uncanny and inhuman, but he cannot understand how it works. He cannot conceptualize the depth of its evils, so he gives up on trying to. It is a dream state where the rules of reality need not apply but make sense. Everything does. as the mind plays tricks on itself to make sense of the madness. He wants to know why he cannot know his coworkers, why he cannot have a life of his own. He wonders if there is a place to go after work, but nothing comes to mind. Maybe there is a place to go after death instead. There is only the department. The department is the greater world. It is the height of human achievement. They cope with the sins of humanity by making themselves no longer human and no longer alive. A pumping, moving machine is God, and all the workers are equal at last, enslaved in a corporate heaven for eternity. The cubicle is the extent of employee 0527's life, and the department is his world and ruler. There is no concept of an outside world to him, and soon he will forget that there is an outside world at all. There is no outside world. The department is everything. The outside world is an enemy of the company. There are no enemies of the company. They will wither. They always do. Employee 0527 yearns for emancipation from his soulless world. He wants to scream and break free from his chains. He cannot continue to allow the overpowering presence of the department to dominate his thoughts and erase all memories of the outside. He knows no one and remembers nothing in particular. He is trapped in his chair, pressed down upon by the manager, the fat man in his big desk, laughing and counting money and puffing on a fat cigar. He presses on the workers until they are thin and dry and their faces twitch in fear of the thought of him in his office, the sick baron of the department, who never leaves his corporate Versailles to gaze upon his weary subjects. Time is mostly irrelevant in the department. There are no changes in state. Work is ongoing. There will only ever be work, and there will only ever be the department. There is no way of knowing how much time passes between one moment to another because there are no moments. There is only the constant stream of work, the new papers piled on desks, and the repetition of the monotonous cycle. Employee 0527 sits without doing work. He closes his eyes, but he can only see the hallway. He decides to keep them closed, to allow himself to wander for a while, if only in the confines of his crumbled imagination, to go down the hallway to whatever awaits in the dark recesses of his reprogrammed mind. He keeps on, unwilling to yield to the fear of breaking the cycle. It seems like it stretches on forever, that long hallway, the heat, all of it so unbearable. The musty air makes the distance foggy and difficult to gauge the length of. The heat makes the sight wavy and more like a dream. It turns it yellow, too, and it sickens him, makes him want to throw up and lay defeated on the floor, having finally submitted himself to the will of the company. He passes dozens of other offices, each one identical to his, all the same size, filled with the same cubicles and the sounds of printing and typing and the checking of boxes, all filled with the same identical minds and bodies, all grown in tubes, all part of the hive, part of the company. They will live and die like bees, hopelessly devoted to the department. This is the way things were always meant to be. Look, can you see? So productive, so full of precious order. This is the way. The lights get brighter and brighter as he walks down the hallway. Eventually it gets to the point where the walls, stained by the growing pollution of hot air, fade out to white blindness. Nothing to see anymore. Nothing to see but the papers on your desk. Employee 0527 floats through the hallway, unable to see a thing, but driven by his steel will to make it where he needs to be, to the end. His ears ring. The further down the hall he gets, the humming of the machines downstairs grows more aggressive. The whirring turns to a piercing roar, as though they were screaming at him to stop, to open his eyes and get back to work, to give in to the department, to give in to the way things are. But he cannot be disheartened any more than he had been for so long. He is condensed into a hard, packed ball, and he cannot be crushed any further. There is nothing that the manager can do to him that will break his resolve now. No matter what happens, employee 0527 knows that he must stand with integrity against whatever harrowing fate he may find on his journey. Soon even the machines are drowned out by the sudden appearance of a ringing bell. It attacks with assured agency, the proof that employee 0527 needed to back up what he always knew. The manager, the fat man in his high office, is scared of a little worker bee. And with that alarm comes another crushing oversight from the mover above the rest, the breaking up of the constant, the creation of a new moment. The manager has yielded back time. The bell's volume grows exponentially until employee 0527 can hardly think of anything else. It hurts his head so much that he doesn't know if he had still been moving forward or backward through the hallway. The department is furious, but he keeps on, even with decreasing chances. The machines shake the building as though an earthquake is occurring just underneath. There is no balance left, nothing to aid him but the assurance of his own mind. Attacks get worse on all fronts, and he wonders if he can make it. He wonders if the lights will become so bright that they burn out his retinas, or the ringing will get so bad that his eardrums will burst, plunging him into a eternal void of nil, where he will forever reside in punishment for his crimes of attempted freedom. This hallway will have no end, so come back. Please, come back. And so the pain heightens, and he falls to the filthy floor, gasping for air. He convulses for some time from the thick air coating his lungs. Even the lights become dimmer as he slips back to the sinister game of consciousness. Everything falls apart, as though it were impossible to prevail. Even in his mind, he is not safe from the will of the department. His heart hurts more than anything else. He wonders what horrors await him for the rest of his life. The continued loneliness there, present and assured more than ever, an example made of the disobedient lamb cast out to moo, because there is only the department. There is nothing else. Yet, he wills himself to go on, and as he does, he takes back control of his mind. He breathes in his chair and brings oxygen back to his body in the hallway, jittering but forcing itself forward, a runaway fugitive from a never-ending hell loop of sleep paralysis. He calms his mind to hold his own against the growing pain, hoping to make it to the end with some senses left. He fights on, enduring his temporary suffering, and crawls on the floor when he can no longer bring himself to stand. His flesh begins to burn from the heat and his fingernails bleed from the dragging of his body across the floor. He keeps his eyes shut, but the light shines straight through his eyelids. He screams against the noise, assuring the manager that no pain could be great enough to stop him from leaving the department. At last, with his remaining nerve endings, Employee 0527 feels a metal door. A wave of euphoria comes over him, though it hurts him greatly, even more than before. He gets back on his feet and twists the handle, opening it up to a shot at victory. A stairwell. The floors and ceiling are made of gray concrete, and in the center of the room is a staircase surrounded by a metal cage. This room is different from the others. It is cold and unwelcoming. It is not designed like the rest of the rooms. It is only meant to be beheld in theory and never in practice. A functional landmark in the peripheral understanding of the mind. It exists only because a building with many floors must have a way to traverse them, but it is never meant to be used. There is no need to move in the department. There is no need to do anything but work at one's desk. This is the way. The entrance is open. Cold, exorbitant gates hang open in such a way as if to call Employee 0527 into its domain. A distant weeping echoes from above and below. Low, not like the alarm on the other side of the door. It is just enough to catch one's attention, but not enough to pierce. And in the lurking shadow, a coward conductor, who prowls around as an agent of escape and the cruel, ongoing stagnation of a futile journey. Yes, he watches, though he himself never leaves. He watches in the mind of those who hope to escape, wondering what might happen if any of them ever make it to the exit, wondering if it would even be possible, moving up and down the stairs like a phantom, far too recreant to ever make a choice for himself. He is to be cast out to the fields, where the wind can blow him like the paper manager in castigation for his dispassion. In the world of the free, the impartial must burn. Employee 0527 descends, sure in his plan to escape. The conductor follows suit behind, unwilling to step in and offer guidance. Strong wanderer, will you depart? A sluggish fool plagued by inertia, unable to find the strength to step off onto the platform and leave order and stability behind. The train will always be consistent, but the outer world is not. He only wanders, and he only sees himself in the shadows of his cold, lonely purgatory. This is his everlasting place of torment, where he will remain to shiver and shrivel up until there is nothing left of him but a speck of dust to be blown around by each small gust of wind in those brave enough to open the metal door and pass through to freedom. As he continues down the stairwell, Employee 0527 notices how dark it gets the lower he goes. He hears the weeping above of a weak man too scared of the dark to look for any light. He will not be weak, he promises himself. He refuses to continue to allow himself to conform to the monotony of his job in the department. He will not accept his role as a prisoner in a cruel system. He cannot take another minute of being used in pawns in games he is not even allowed to understand the scope or product of. Not another second of disconnection from his puppet masters of the department, and the disconnection from fulfillment and control of his life and destiny. And so it comes to the final step. Another set of cold bars, closed but not locked. All it takes is a push and they creak open, heavy by the weight of the metal and the weight of all it represents. This is it, he thinks, the end of the line. Down by the lobby where his time here runs out. Freedom awaits now. Yes, freedom. The long-awaited moment of escape. The moment of self-salvation. So crucial yet so difficult. Why is it so difficult? Another metal door too. Employee 0527 opens it and more fluorescent lights fill his eyes. A lobby, visually similar to the halls above. Quieter than the other halls though. Piss-yellow walls and long buzzing lights in cheap plastic casing. A dusty carpet in the middle of the floor and a line of identical chairs, all without a single indentation. The liminal place, where there is nothing to wait for and nothing to do but open your eyes. The carpet and the line of chairs lead logically forward, to the other end of the room, where the doors should be. But there are no doors in the department, not like that. Doors are to lead from one place to another. But there is nowhere a door can go but the department, because there is only the department. There is no outside world, so there is no door to it. There is no escape, so there will be no path to it. There is a desk, and there is a woman at the desk. I would like to leave, he tells her. She looks up at him from her papers. Leave? To where? Outside, he says. Oh, but there is no such thing as outside. Go back upstairs to your desk, that should be real enough. Please, he says. I have to leave. You can stay here and mock me for being crazy, but I can't take another second in this place. Her head twisted to the right. It will not be possible for you to leave. There is no leaving the department. See for yourself, there's no exit here. Why do they have to keep us here, he asks. I wouldn't so much as take a pen from my cubicle. I would never want anything bad to happen to another person. I just want to be free. Can they not see that? The manager at his desk, could he not let me live on my account? You have not seen the way humans can be without order. We don't adjust well to freedom, so we must be workers. When we're left to our own devices, not under the reign of something higher, we take up arms and commit atrocities against each other. If you were not under the boot of the manager, you'd want to put him under yours. Employee 0527, deep in his mind, laughed for a second. Because for the first time, this autocratic machine that had so owned him for his entire life sounded completely ridiculous. He moved forward regardless. She steps aside and employee 0527 walks over to the edge. He reaches his hand out and puts it up to the wall, pressing on it. He doesn't understand why it had to be this way. Why did they hate him so much, he wondered. He is furious, and he cannot stop himself. He takes all the anger that he has built up over the years of entrapment and channels it into a destructive rage. Nothing can stop such a person. Nothing as paper-thin or hollow as a place like the department could stop someone of such will. He tears away at the wall and smashes it with pristine chairs, breaking them and screaming with enraged desperation. But the wall remains standing no matter what he does. He shakes, frantic and terrified of what might happen if his little revolution fell through. But he does not let up in the slightest. He will not be broken by the yelling of his manager or the sick ideologies of the company, who are weak. They have no bearing over the true world. Having turned the chairs into piles of scrap parts, he tears at the world with his bare hands instead. At first, it doesn't budge. He attacks it more. He refuses to give up. He rips away until there is not a nail left on his fingers and the bones twist and break. He will not return to his cell. He will not submit to the department, which has kept him melted into the collective amalgam, wrought with an apathy for the individual and a disregard for the unique intentions that fade into irrelevance when viewed as a whole. Nothing can hold him back now. He strikes again, panting and sweating, and he attacks the wall, not with his rage, but his unyielding determination for peace. Employee 0527 imagines a green field full of life and nature. He imagines the sound of a waterfall in the background, the faint, distant sounds of birds chirping and wind flowing. Bright greens and blues and subtle reds and pinks in the flowers. The soft morning grass on his soles and the breeze brushing against his hairs on his arms. Look at this. Look at this beautiful day. Feel the grass, how soft it is. Feel how simple it all can be. He imagines it all, and he feels in tune with all of creation, a part of nature which has been hidden from him in the name of industry. The world glows around him, and he gazes at the magnificent microcosm that he could never have been a part of, a place with no walls and no limits to confine him, a place where things can be different. But there is a buzzing sound, and it echoes throughout the walls from the inner workings of the building.